All right, guys, it looks like we're having some Schoology issues, so I'm going to record this now. I'll be checking internet, checking email throughout the day in case anybody has questions or problems. And I'm sorry for the technological issues. I think this was probably something that we anticipated, that Schoology was going to be having problems today with the amount of people who are trying to utilize this. And so I'll be able to provide for you details as far as how to keep you safe in this class as we move forward. What I need to highlight for you, though, is that we probably are going to be doing this for a while. President Trump was very reluctant to talk about closing down for long periods of time. But yesterday, after a lot of pressure from governors and from scientists and from doctors, he is now talking about using protocols to prepare for coronavirus protection all the way through April 30th at least. And so what that means is for us, digital learning, and we'll be trying to figure out ways to get you guys prepared and safe so you guys are doing good. So when you guys are working your way through, first of all, I'll send you this video as soon as Schoology is up and running, and I'll be checking both email and also Schoology messages to make sure that we are keeping you good. Let me show you a few different things to help you out with the course then. If I go to this page right here, this is Schoology, and what you'll find is a couple different things. You'll find your daily attendance located right here. You do need to complete attendance on a daily basis using this form. And so you'll want to make sure that you do this sometime before the end of the day. But again, Schoology is having quite a bit of a problem. And so try to get to this as you can. Feel free to email me as well. This page right up here, though, is going to give you the updates for what we're working on currently. And this is your page as I open it up. This is your ongoing activity log for what we're doing for instruction. And so for today, number one, I want to highlight for you the current situation that we have going on with coronavirus. Your test that you have for chapters 20 and 22 is on hold for the time being. We're not really certain what assessments should look like as we are moving forward. Our district will give us more detail. But like I mentioned, our president was very apprehensive about closing down for long periods of time. He was talking about reopening our economy by Easter. Now most people are acknowledging that's quite a bit of stuff that we are not going to be able to meet that deadline that he had. What we'll be doing, though, is we'll be trying to figure out for your district, what does assessment look like? What will testing be like as we move forward? And now that we know that we are going to be closed until the end of April, now that we know that the president has advised April 30th as the date to continue with our strategies, and the governor is considering the same. We'll be figuring out assessments over the course of the upcoming week, and I'll be able to give you more details. So I know we were supposed to test on this material. Tomorrow, when we do our review session at 10 a.m., we will be meeting, hopefully using Messenger through Schoology, but keep this document open on your Chromebook. And then if I need to message you through Google, I'm very certain that even though Schoology might have ups and downs, this Google document will not be having ups and downs. So tomorrow we'll review your Chapter 22 PowerPoint. Chapter 23 text assignment is due now on Wednesday, and that's where we're going to be starting our teaching from. And so what we'll do is what we've done normally. We're going to be using Schoology to upload your text questions, have them done by the time that we get together for our 10 a.m. session. so I can start teaching you some things from chapter 23 and we can keep our content going. I will be checking Schoology and my email to see if you've got any problems that are going on. And also, what I would like to highlight for you is if you are somebody who is behind in work, when it comes to homework, especially, you guys have this opportunity now with free time to be able to get any zeros fixed. But I would not be worried about grades at this time. We'll be able to give you more detail and understand that we are all trying to make do with the best of the situation that we can. And so we've got struggles that are taking place both technologically and also obviously sickness wise. I'll be adding the videos down here on my YouTube page. I will take the recordings that I do here on Google Meet. I will then put them onto YouTube, and then I'll have a link down here. So that if you are not able to watch them at 10 a.m. because you might have other things that are going on, definitely you'll be able to watch them in that spot. I want to send out my condolences if you had your plans altered, especially since you were supposed to go on spring break. If you were planning on going someplace fancy and you weren't able to, I'm so sorry about that. If you've got family members who are wrestling with sickness right now, I also would like to offer you my condolences, and I hope things that turn out well. This is just your update as far as where we're sitting currently, though. Right now, when it comes to the United States and coronavirus, the president has been announcing that we have currently done more tests than any other country in the world has done. The problem that we have, though, is that our response initially was very much reflecting the idea that President Trump likes the idea of not having large government interventions. He prefers states' rights solutions. He prefers smaller government. And so for a while, he had a response that very much reminded us of Herbert Hoover announcing that things were getting better and better. But he really didn't have the data to tell us that. And so if you take a look at this chart per capita, which means per person, if you think about tests per 100,000 people, South Korea has done about 700 tests per 100,000 inside their country. Ours is far beneath that. And so the dilemma that we have is we don't have much testing done. We have the assumption that coronavirus has worked its way around to different parts of the country. We're assuming that some people have gotten it and not even realized it and thought that they had like a bad cold or a flu. And so that's our dilemma currently, is that we now know that coronavirus is here inside the country, and we've got freedom of movement taking place. And so when you watch the news, the dilemma that we're facing is that when it comes to the United States, you can see our testing per 100,000 people. We are not keeping up with other countries when it comes to our testing. We've been pretty slow with that. Although with some states like New York, they have aggressively started increasing their testing. But the problem is also that they are becoming overwhelmed inside their medical system. And the biggest issue that we're about to face is the amount of supplies that are available. And so for the president, he does have a tool from the period of Franklin Roosevelt and Truman called the Defense Authorization Act, where the president can tell certain businesses that they need to ramp up production of certain things, kind of like we had with Franklin Roosevelt and World War II, where we became the arsenal of democracy. What the president is discovering, though, is that it's very tricky to ramp up our production, especially since China produces a lot of the stuff that we now use. We've now outsourced a lot of stuff. And so we don't have large factories that are sitting idle. And if we do get those factories up and running, what Woodrow Wilson and Franklin Roosevelt did during World War I and II is they started dedicating huge amounts of resources, but they had to figure out the whole supply chain. How do you get the materials to a factory? How do you then produce those materials? How do you then ship them out to the people who need them? So our problem is that in the state of New York, they are running out of masks and ventilators to keep people safe during this crisis. And the problem is they're competing against other parts of the country like Washington State that also got clobbered when it came to coronavirus. But now we're seeing other places like in Louisiana, they still held Mardi Gras, where they gathered thousands of people together in New Orleans with the assumption that coronavirus was not all that serious. There had been many people, the president included, who argued that maybe coronavirus was just like the flu. It wasn't that big of a deal. And now they're seeing an explosion of cases of people who have coronavirus inside of their area. So what we want to be noticing for us is this big idea. And this is the problem that we're facing currently when it comes to coronavirus. Is the idea that for us, we initially taught people that kids your age were relatively immune to the coronavirus. What we're now discovering is that you can be carrying the coronavirus and still be infectious without having symptoms. But they're also now seeing kids your age and others who are starting to get sick. And what's really scary about the sickness response is the fact that we have studied in your class last semester something called the Spanish flu epidemic of 1919. When the Spanish flu hit, this is the dilemma that we had, is that Spanish flu and coronavirus has this element to it that can make it dangerous. Where with coronavirus right now, the way that people are getting sick is they get a flu, but for some people, their lungs, if you picture your lungs as being like a sponge where they have little holes inside of your lungs to be able to allow the transmission of oxygen in and carbon dioxide out of your lungs in respiration. That's called osmosis. There are some people, though, who have this genetic factor that when they get a virus like coronavirus, their body starts to overreact to it. That overreaction then causes inflammation. It then causes swelling. And the problem that we see is when that starts taking place, you then start having this swelling happening where the lungs stop functioning well. It creates pneumonia, fluid on the lungs, and those individuals need respirators. And so the dilemma that we're facing right now is Governor Walz this past week assured us that inside of the state, the spread has already started happening. And so because of that, there's an understanding that for many of us, we will get coronavirus. The question is not if, but when, but we can slow that down. I can tell you from the doctor friends that I have that the facilities in the North Memorial Clinic have stopped doing elective surgeries. And many of them are getting prepared for a flood of people who are going to need treatment. And so our goal for you guys is to make sure that if you do get sick, we don't want it to be right now when the medical facilities are going to be facing a lot of patients, because there are people who are facing life or death decisions where in a normal hospital environment they would be fine, but because they're facing a hospital environment where maybe there aren't enough respirators, you've then got decisions that need to be made about who gets treatment and who does not. For Governor Walz, what he's hoping for is he's hoping to spread out the infection rate so that it's done over a longer period of time, which is the reason why you're out of school, is to hopefully slow down the spread of this so that our hospitals and our doctors are able to treat this in an orderly manner. And hopefully do so where when one person gets done with their treatment, usually takes about 2 weeks on a ventilator for somebody who's really ill to be able to come back. The hope is after those 2 weeks, then somebody else can use the respirator and be able to get the life-saving treatment that they're going to be needing. So for you guys in particular, here's the thing that you should be considering. Number one, if you are out in public and you are encountering people, maintain that safe social distancing. What they're discovering is this virus does not transmit super easily by just casual contact of like a walk by a conversation. But the problem is if you are in sustained contact with somebody who is infectious for a period of time, it is possible to catch coronavirus from other people. The way that this virus and other viruses survived over long periods of time, though, is the habit that you and I have of taking our hands and touching our mouths, nose, and eyes. And so as a result, the virus is able to move from a surface that has infectiousness on it and is able to get to the mucous membranes. And then once it gets there, it's a piece of DNA that gets into your cells, starts replicating, and that's how it's able to stay alive, is it's able to move from one host to another. So for you guys, make sure you're not touching your eyes, your mouth, or your nose with your hands that might be infectious. Make sure you're doing your hand washing. Make sure that when you are touching stuff, like if you do end up going to the grocery store with your parents, make sure you wipe down the handle of the grocery cart really nicely with a wipe. And then make sure that you're very conscious about not touching those areas that could transmit the disease. And keep in mind, if you do get sick, most likely you'll be one of the people who recovers. But what the dilemma is that we are very worried about both the elderly, the people who have immunosystems that are not prepared to fight off something like coronavirus. Or we've also got people who genetically this is a disease that can cause the overreaction that I was just describing for you, which can be very dangerous. For us then, what I would like you to do, please, is stay safe. And then please remember these things once you watch this video. Number one, make sure you check out once Schoology becomes functional again, and I'm hoping that it's there now. Go to the page that you see right here. This will tell you what you're working on. Open up this Google document. Make sure you keep your content ready for these items right here. We'll talk about assessment eventually. We will eventually do something to summatively look at what you understand from these chapters. And we'll review chapter 22 and the PowerPoint that we were going to look over for those text questions tomorrow when we do our session. So tune in at 10 a.m. tomorrow on Google Meet. I will have on this page the link so that you can join us for the live video feed. I'll also put on the YouTube link so you can watch it later. Make sure you're working on your chapter 23 text questions. Have them done by Wednesday at the start of our 10 a.m. session so that I can start running through answers with you and help you out with that. Make sure you're working on any missing homework that you have. And if you do have work that's turned in and you've notified me, I will be updating grades today. And I will be reachable either through the email right here or else through Schoology, through your messenger when it's up and running. And please click on this e-learning daily attendance so that you're able to get your attendance verified for today. We are supposed to be marking people absent if they do not appear on this attendance sheet. And so if you do not click on that, we're supposed to mark you absent. Obviously today, though, with Schoology crashing the way that it did, we are a work in progress. So if you have questions, if you have problems, if you have concerns, please let me know. If you are a parent of a student who does have an individualized education plan, this is where you and I need to partner a ton, where the work that the kids are doing in class has been done in the past with text questions. They have been completing them to this point, but it wouldn't surprise me if questions pop up. And so feel free to send me an email. We can discuss via Google Meet like this. Individually your child situation, because for third quarter, we've been having great results with students completing work, but we've had EAs like John in our classroom who has been helping to guide the students, and we obviously are lacking that, but we've got you and our team as well. So if we need additional times or modifications or whatever, definitely don't hesitate to let me know. Best of luck to all of you guys. Stay healthy, stay safe, and finally, I do miss you guys quite a bit. The normal routine is something that I'm missing a lot, and it's going to be nice to be able to get back to that. I just don't know when that's going to be, but for the time being, we'll continue making our progress. Again, reach out to me if you need any sort of help, but otherwise, stay healthy, stay safe, and I will talk to you again tomorrow at 10 a.m.